Okay, hello everybody. We are going to continue today's Rambam. Just to be clear again, the real regular Rambam study is starting in a few days. Now we're just going through the introduction. So now we are going through the positive mitzvahs that every Jew, not every Jew, but every Jew had a chance to do during the history. And before Mashiach comes, we need every single soul needs to do all the 248 commandments to complete his 248 spiritual limbs. So now we are holding by commandment 84. The commandment is to serve all the sacrifices in the temple. God shows a place that he wants to be revealed specifically in that place, and that's the temple, and that's where we have to bring the sacrifices to connect to God. 85, to deal with the sacrifice until we get it to the temple. 86, if sacrifice has a blemish, then we have to redeem it and take the money and buy another sacrifice. 87, if someone says an animal should be like the sacrifice, it's called a tmura, it is also holy. 88, to eat, the Kohen must eat the menachos. We said yesterday there's a sacrifice which is made out of flour, and the Kohen has to eat it. 89, to eat the meat of a chatas. We explained that yesterday. 90, to burn the meat of the chatas if it becomes tameh. We will explain that in length in the coming 3 years. 91, to burn nicer. If you left over meat from the sacrifice, like you asked yesterday, if somebody leaves the meat over, what is he going to do with it? So you have to burn it. 92, that a Nazarite should grow his hair very long. 93, when he finishes his term of being a Nazir, which is at least 30 days, he goes to the Beis HaMikdash, like we mentioned before, God's temple, and he has to cut his hair, all this hair, every drop of hair he has on his body, he has to cut it and bring sacrifices to Hashem. Everywhere? Every single place. 94, you must do every word you say. In business, if you say something, you got to keep it. Especially when it comes to tzedakah. If you tell the rabbi you're going to give charity, you must give the money to tzedakah. It's a mitzvah. And also, if you tell Hashem, I'm going to bring you a sacrifice, you must bring it. So if you say, I'm going to bring a sacrifice, you have to wait when Mashiach comes. As soon as Mashiach comes, you must bring your sacrifice. 95, if someone he promised something and we said you have to do it, and then he realized it's really, really painful to do it, so we go to a rabbi, and the rabbi could get him out of it, make a loophole. 96, if you touch a nevela, dead animal, you become not pure in the times of the temple. 97, 7 special types of it's called shratzim, like frogs and mouse and these type of small little animals. If you touch them, there's a special impurity that comes with that. 98, if these things touch food or not something that's not pure touches food, the food becomes impure, and then therefore people which are pure, a Kohen, and people that have to be pure, can't eat it. 99, that a nida, we'll explain later what a nida is tameh, she's not pure, and she also makes for anybody that she touches tameh. 100, someone has a baby, they are tameh, they're not pure. And 101, the woman is not pure. 101, the Metzera is someone that has a disease, it's not a spiritual disease, with a white his skin turns white. He is tameh, and he also makes other people tameh. 102, there's something called the beged, which has tzaras. If a clothes is red or green, it becomes the same laws you have tzaras by people. It becomes the clothes has tzaras, you have to burn the clothes or rip out the tzaras. 103, a house could also have tzaras. In times of the temple, the houses had tzaras. It would become like colorful colors on the house. And yes, and the Jews used to break through those walls and actually sometimes find diamonds and jewels that the people before the Jews moved there hid, so the Jews shouldn't get it. Yeah. Okay. The diamonds can have tzaras, but Hashem usually gets tzaras for saying lashon hara. But in certain cases, even if the guys are a tzaddik, Hashem will make tzaras, so it's just so he should be able to get those diamonds. The tzaras can be in the house, yeah. Not on the stone, but not on the diamonds. 104, that the zav is it's a special disease. A zav is tameh. 105, shechva zera makes tameh. 106, a zava, which is the same thing as a zav, but as a woman, she is impure. 107, mace, a dead body, makes someone not pure. 108, Maimonides is the water that you sprinkle on somebody that had contact with a dead body. He has to have 7 days of system of becoming pure. The third day and seventh day, you sprinkle water on him. Now that water, if someone touches it for no reason, he becomes not pure, and he has to go to mikvah and go through the process of becoming pure. 109. The way to become pure is by going to mikvah. Some people go to mikvah every day, but this is in the times of the temple. If someone became a pure, had to go to a special mikvah, which was rainwater, 40 saw a certain amount to go his whole body. It should go into the mikvah. 110. That in order to become pure from tzeras, you have to have a tree called an erez, it's a certain type of tree, and a piece of grass and a piece of string, and with two birds and water, and there's a whole system how they sprinkle the water on him to make them pure after the tzeras. 111. That a mitzvah, just like an Nazir, also has to shave every single drop of his body the day that he becomes pure, and it brings his sacrifices to the temple. 112. A mitzvah, and anybody that has something which is going to endanger other people, he has to let people know about it. Like corona, right? You can't just, if you have corona, you can't just sit in your house, you can't just walk around and say, I'm going to be quiet about it. Tell people, right? So if someone has tzeras, you have to tell everybody, yo, stay away, I have tzeras. And therefore, they used to have to make signs on their body. They have to wear in the olden days, they used to have hoodies. They used to wear their hoodies past their nose, and they used to sort of rip their clothes and make signs. People should know to stay away from them, not become context, and they would also become not pure. 113. A para aduma. It's the red heifer. That you always have to have his ashes ready to make people pure. And they have 3 places: one in the temple for safekeeping forever, and still there today. They're under the ground of the temple. King Solomon built a cave under Har Maria. That's where the mosque is. There's a cave under there, and the king Yoshio took the ark and put it there, and it's still there today. It's right under the rock. Yeah, and also that this ashes is there. Okay, 114. We're going through a lot of mitzvahs, okay, guys? Hope you. This is not usual Rambam. This is just introduction. Wait till we get to the Rambam. We'll explain everything in depth. Okay, so 114. A person that says, "My worth, I'm going to give to Hashem." He has to give a certain according to the age. He has to give. We're going to explain. He has to give a animal worth that amount of money that he's worth, which is, let's say you're 50, so it'll be, let's say, $100, and if you're 60, it's $200, whatever it says in the Torah. 115. If you say an animal's worth, but the animal is not kosher, so you can't bring it as a sacrifice. So what you could do is you have to take the money's worth and buy a kosher animal. 116. If someone says my house worth, there's a special price for that. 117. If someone says my field is holy, so then there's a special price he has to pay for the sacrifices and support of the temple. He says that. 118. If somebody uses God's belongings by mistake, he has to pay what he used, add a fifth, and also bring a sacrifice. 119. If somebody plants a tree, so first 2 years you can't touch it. That's what it says in Torah. Even today, even in America. The 4th year, in the times of the temple, you take all the fruits, go to the Jerusalem and eat it in Jerusalem. If it was very far from Jerusalem, you could take money, redeem the fruits, and that money you go to Jerusalem and celebrate in Jerusalem.
So how do you do it here?
We don't do that part, but the first 2 years you can. There's a story with Alter Rebbe. I'll tell you later. 4th year you can eat it. I'm pretty sure. The Alter Rebbe, by accident, his younger brother took an apple from one of these trees outside, and he was like 3 years old. And Alter Rebbe said, "Come on, like you." So you started crying. So Alter Rebbe said, "No, don't worry." He felt bad. So he told him, "We're gonna go to mikvah." But the problem was that there was a very big sickness in that city. Talking about corona, that lake was very, very polluted lake. People died from drinking the lake. So they had no lake anymore. They go into this like little town in one lake, and everything's a lake. And they didn't have any. It was actually a problem in that town. So they said, "We'll dig." They started digging, and they actually found a spring, and it turned into a new lake. And the whole city enjoyed their mikvah for all their needs. Anyways, okay. Only the sledding. 120. When you have a field, you have to leave a part of the field for poor people. 121. to leave if it falls off, if you're cutting wheat and some pieces fall off, leave it for the poor. 122. If you forget something in the field, leave it for the poor. If you're gathering your vineyard, this is wheat. You're gathering wheat, so you should get a bundle. Not a wallet. No. It's a mitzvah. It says if you lose your money and a poor person finds it, it's a mitzvah. Even though you didn't intentionally give him the money, you get reward from Hashem. 123. If you have a vineyard and you gather all the fruits, then the law is that if it's very, very small fruits in the grapes, don't touch it. Leave it for the poor. 124. If something falls off on the ground, you can't pick it off the ground. You can't pick off the grapes on the ground. I'm not sure. These laws might be only in Israel, but if for sure in Israel, if the grapes fall on the ground, you can't pick them up from the ground. It's for the poor. 125. Okay, so before we go further, the concept is that in Judaism, we have to care for poor people, and therefore in all these laws, we see there's a general concept that don't be picky on what you have. Leave it. Just leave it for someone else to have it. Don't need it. You have to go to Shlomie, make a party, right? And you leave your cake. You don't need to take your cake home. Leave it for the poor person to have some cake. There's for sure somebody that can enjoy it, right? So the point is, you always have to be generous and not be picky on your food. Let people sort of steal from your stuff. Okay, 125. To bring bikurim, the first fruits of your field, to Beis Hamikdash to celebrate with and thank God for the fruits that He gave you. There's a lot of giving over here. 126. You have to give truma gedolah. If you have a field, you have to give the 60th of the field to the kohen. 127. You have to give a 10th of your field to the Levi. 128. You have to give the other 10th of the field to poor people. So you're left with 80% or 70%. Okay. Now the second 10th. There's 6 years that we work the field. And the 7th year is we rest, right? So the 6 years, 4 of them you bring the second. You give 2 years. 2 of the years you give it to the poor. The other 4 years you could take that food and you go to Jerusalem, like I said before. Okay. 129. The Jews all lived in Israel, so going to Jerusalem was very, very practical experience. They went and celebrated all the festivals in Jerusalem, brought all their food along. It worked very. It was a smart, it worked with them. Okay, 129. In these days, it's become more complicated because you actually can't do it, right? So there's different ways in Israel how they deal with these things. 129. The Levium have to also give to the Kohen because the Kohen is a higher level, and they have to give them a 10th of their 10th. Okay, 130. So like I said before, some of the years you give the 30 year and the 6th year you give to the poor, the 10th instead of going to Jerusalem. 131. You have to, when you come to Hashem and you give your meiser, you have to tell Hashem, I did your mitzvah. Be proud of me. 122. When you give Hashem bikurim, you have to say thank you, Hashem. Judaism believes in being thankful. And being thankful makes you actually have a good life, makes you happy. Okay. 133. To give challah to the kohen. Have you seen a woman in America? I mean, this is not from the Torah, but in America, if a lady in any place in the world, a lady is making challah, they have to take a piece of the challah and give it to the kohen. Now, these days, we're not sure it's a kohen, so they either burn it or they do other things. Even though I am very proven to be a kohen because, as I told you, my last name is Katz, which means kohen, and I have a lineage, son after son after son, to one of the most famous kohen in history. I mean, this is late history. A very famous rabbi, one of the most famous rabbis in the last 300 years. His name is Shlomie Cohen at Katz. And the people that actually, specifically by opinion of Ben, like I said yesterday, you have to redeem your son, give it to Cohen. They actually go to people like from my family because we have a very strong proof that we're calling him. So if you have challah, maybe I can take it, but the custom is to burn it. Okay.
It's everywhere, not just
everywhere. So even now, but we do it. Yeah, the rabbis say we do it. So when the reason is when Mashiach comes, we shouldn't be like, what's this mitzvah? So we try to do as much mitzvahs as possible, so we're ready for Mashiach. Okay, 134. Every 7 years, you have to have a sabbatical. This is the source of sabbatical. Every 7 years, you have to take vacation for a full year and just learn and spend time with your family. Corona style. 135. You can't work. You are not allowed to work, which means not only you have to rest, you also can't work on your land. and you have to leave your short of your field for everybody to take. So if you have an orchard, you can just let anybody take, and then you can take too, but it's for everybody. Sounds like communism, huh? This is positive. You
cannot work.
No, this is you can't work. You have to rest from working.
Oh.
Good job. 136. The 50th year also has to be rest. So every 7 times 7. So there's 2 years in a row of rest, extra rest. 137. You have to blow the shofar on the year of Yovel. After Yom Kippur, you blow the shofar. When you blow the shofar, all the slaves get freed. 130.
Jewish slave or anybody?
No. Not Jewish. Only Jewish. Now, again, people that are watching, slaves in the times of the temple were not like slaves in America. There's so many so many laws of how you have to treat your slave, and if you are a little bit harsh, if you knock out by accident a tooth of your slave when you're trying to, even if they misbehave, right? You lose your ownership on the slave, right? And what did you say? If you 100%. You have a lot. It says actually, according to the Torah, getting a slave is actually getting a boss. Because if you have any food you have to give him. You can't. If you have a pillow and he has a pillow, he has to have the same quality life as you have. So if you're very rich, you can go for it, but it's not. You can't treat them like garbage. Okay, 138. In the times of the temple, the land of Israel was split up to families, and you were not allowed to sell your land. If you had no money, you were able to sell your land, but it would come back to you by the Yovel.
It's the same share. You can't sell.
Exactly. No, you can't. You can't sell.
You
can rent. You can rent it out, but by Yovel, every land goes back to the family. So when the Jews came to Israel, God gave them the land, and they would just go from generation to generation and split it up more and more.
You can only sell lease up to 49.
Okay, 139. If somebody builds a house and then he sells the house because he has no money, he has a year to buy it back if it's in a walled city.
Everywhere or Israel?
Walled city in Israel. 140. To count, the Jewish court must count the years, 7 years and 50 years. 141. To go to your emails and delete all your emails on, not exact emails, but every single loan that somebody owes you disappears by Shemitah. So every 7 years, clear cut. If you owe people money in Israel, every 7 years, now Misha's going like this because in these days there's a principle in general. Because in these days it's only the reason why principle works is because these days it's only from the midrabanan, from the rabbis, because we're practicing for Mashiach. So therefore we do this concept of Shemitah. But in the times of the temple, which it was Shemitah, principle wouldn't work. So in the times of the temple, if someone's a poor guy,
If you give it to temple, you don't get it back, right?
what do you mean?
Give it back at the temple. You don't get it back.
Certain cases, yeah. So in general, okay, you're saying no, but if you lend money from somebody, you can owe millions of dollars. You can owe millions of dollars, and the Shemitah comes, you're clean. You want to go back to the times of the temple, huh? You know that? Okay, 142. If a non-Jew owes you money, you're allowed to ask him for it. Not like a Jew, which you're not. If a Jew doesn't have your money to pay you, you're not allowed to ask him for it. If a non-Jew has, you're allowed to ask him for it. 143. You have to give to the Kohen, even in these days. I'm open. And from every animal, the zroya, the arm, the lachayayim, which is part of the animal, and the keva is where the milk is. You have to give it to the Kohen, and these days they still give it to the Kohen. The Kohen gives it back to the slaughterhouse, but you have to give it to the Kohen. Okay, 144. To give the first cut of your sheep. If you cut your sheep in the old days, that was a big business, right? And these days, also in some countries, you have wool and you have a lot of sheep and you cut the wool. So the first sheep that you cut, give that wool to the Kohen. 145. By the way, the Kohen, the reason why they get so much things is because the Kohen has a job. He works in the temple. He doesn't have land. He's busy. He lives off the other Jews. Yeah. What did you ask? Gedalia. What's the question?
From each sheep or from
No, from the first sheep. And you cut all your
What do
sheep
you mean by first sheep?
because the way they used to do it in those days, you have all the sheep. You don't cut one at a time. You take all of them, and then you cut all of them one time. So when you're doing the big cut, huh?
Shear.
Shear, God, whatever.
Yeah, you cut it. Yeah, sure. Yeah. 100. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you just cut the wool off. 145. If someone gives a present to Hashem, there's laws about how it works. It's called chayr. 146. A Jew, before he eats meat, he must slaughter the cow or sheep or goat or whatever animal he's eating. He has to slaughter it by the neck, and that is actually the best way, the least pain for the animal. My uncle is a shochet, and my great grandfather, which I'm named after him, is a shochet, and he's a shochet, and they say the animal really doesn't feel the knife. If somebody, God forbid, goes with his finger through the knife, you won't even feel the knife cutting it, because the knife that they cut with the slaughterhouses is sharp in a way. It's very. If there's one little bump, it's not kosher. The reason why you don't feel, if there's no bump on the knife, you don't feel the knife. So every knife that we own in the kitchen has bumps, but if it's straight, not one drop. They do it with the tongue. They go with the tongue on the side and then make sure there's no bump with your nail, whatever. And basically, they really can't feel it. Oh, you have to sharpen it. I'm sure. Okay. 20 minutes. Yeah. So, any more questions? You can ask Misha. In Russia, I bet it was more useful. I don't think there was so much competition in your days to be a sheikh in Russia. Huh? 146, 147. If you slaughter a chaya, a wild animal or a bird, you have to cover their blood. You can't let the blood just sit outside. 148. If you want to take eggs from a nest, you can't take it with the bird there, because then you have to shoo away the bird and then take the eggs. 149. You have to check a animal before you eat it. Make sure it's kosher. 150. You have to check a bird. 151. You have to check grasshoppers. Grasshoppers are kosher according to some traditions. I mean, all traditions. We don't know exactly which one it is, but there's some Jews. Yes. Now, the machlekes of the Rabbi and the Rambam, if every single animal, every checking is a mitzvah, but the Rambam, an animal is a mitzvah, a bird is a mitzvah. You have to check the grasshoppers. You have to check the fish. 152, 153. Yes.
How do you use
153. You have to. You don't need to. You kill it anyway. 153.
You can eat it alive?
No, you have to kill it. 153. To make the Beis Din in the times of the temple decided every single year, every single month, when is Rosh Chodesh, and they said Rosh Chodesh, and that was Rosh Chodesh. In these days we have a calendar. In those days there was no calendar. If they saw the moon, whenever they saw the moon, then even if they made a mistake and they said Rosh Chodesh is today, it's called Mekudesh. That was the day God couldn't decide. Angels, the people down here decided. I'm sure they made a mistake at least once. No, maybe not. I'm joking. Hopefully not. But the point is, we see over here the power of Jews, that God can't control us. We are the ones to decide our fate. 154. To rest on Shabbos. 155. To make Shabbos holy by saying Kiddush on Friday night with your family. 156. To burn the chametz. 157. To talk about the exodus of Egypt every single year on the night of Pesach. 158. To eat matzah. 159. To rest on the first day of Pesach. 160. To rest on the 7th. 161. To count 49 days from Pesach till Shavuos. 162. To rest on Shavuos. 163. To rest on Rosh Hashanah, not to do work. 164. To fast on the 10th day of Tishrei, which is Yom Kippur. 165. To rest on Yom Kippur. 166, which is the last law mitzvah that we're learning today, is to rest on Sukkot. The reason why we rest is because it's a time that we rise above the nature. It's the time that we connect with God. And that's why Shabbos and the festival is the time that we're meant to leave our mundane life, business, and all the physical stuff, and realize what life is really all about. And that's why Hashem also gives us Shemitah, which is once every 7 years, and once every 50 years, a time to reconnect. Because the reason why Hashem created us is to fulfill the mission and God's dream to bring Mashiach, to make the world a better place. So in between our jobs, we have sort of times to rest, to reconnect, get more energy, recharge, and go back into the world, tackle it again, go through all the challenges, and bring Mashiach. Have a great night.
Thank you.